Would you buy cookies that cost $64 a dozen? What about bagels for $58 a dozen? Coffee for 96 bucks a gallon? Hate to break it to you, but you already did.
I hope they tasted good.
Those are all prices Space Florida paid with your tax dollars. You also paid for their executives to fly internationally in first and business class, even though state law requires they use the most economical means of travel. Let's see what's brewing. Hi, I'm Jenna Bourne, and I'm an investigative reporter at 10 Tampa Bay. If you're new here, welcome to our caffeine-fueled deep dive into issues that matter to you. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I want to start by making it clear that we are talking about Space Florida, not Space Force. Space Force is a branch of the military that just celebrated its second birthday. Space Florida is a 15-year-old subdivision of the state that promotes the growth of Florida's aerospace industry. They do that by facilitating business financing, spaceport operations, research, workforce development, and education programs. And that can involve going to events, having meals and drinks with potential clients, and traveling all over the world. But the Party Pooper Math Club champs over at the Florida Auditor General's office are calling out some of Space Florida's questionable travel and entertainment spending in a November 2021 audit. I know you might hear the word audit and just glaze over, but stick with me here because it gets juicy. The state auditor flagged Space Florida's entertainment spending at two events in particular. In April 2018, Space Florida hosted meetings at the Space Symposium, which happened at the very swanky Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs. On top of renting a meeting room and audiovisual equipment there, they managed to spend thousands more on coffee, tea, and snacks, including bagels that cost $58 a dozen. The auditor also called out Space Florida's spending at a joint board of directors meeting with Enterprise Florida, this time at the Loews Portofino Bay Hotel at Universal Orlando in November 2018. That included $50 a head time-sensitive plated lunches, even though the max state law allows them to spend on lunch is $11. Remember that $96 a gallon coffee I mentioned earlier? This is where you bought it. Plus those cookies that cost $64 a dozen. I guess my most important question is, have you ever bought cookies that are $64 a dozen?
No, I have not. And that isn't, in my view, it is an excessive price.
I guess we're just not high rollers, Ben, because neither have I. Ben Wilcox is the research director at Integrity Florida, a nonprofit research institute and government watchdog.
The reason for these laws is to put some guardrails on public spending so that taxpayers aren't funding lavish meals or excessive spending.
We went on our own snack run, and we were able to buy all of this for what Space Florida spent on a single gallon of coffee. This should fuel our investigative unit for, about 10 minutes. So on what planet do coffee and snacks cost thousands of dollars? Well, Space Florida tells us that's how much the hotels where these events happened charge to supply those items. And Space Florida can't just pick up some Panera instead because those hotels don't allow outside catering. But that begs the question, why did Space Florida and Enterprise Florida have their joint board meeting at a theme park hotel instead of a public building? Space Florida has 2 offices, and Enterprise Florida has 3. A spokesperson tells us hotels better accommodate the need for additional meeting rooms for breakout committees, and they can provide a single point of contact for audiovisual support, catering, and other logistical needs. The Florida Auditor General also flagged their travel spending. They found on 10 international trips, Space Florida executives didn't fly economy. They flew first and business class, which is lovely for them. Except that state law requires them to use the most economical means of travel. Those international flights cost taxpayers $62,520.
It kind of shows arrogance, in fact, of feeling that they deserve to, fly first class, and whereas normal state employees, would not be able to take advantage of a first class flight.
So how much more does business class really cost Florida taxpayers? I looked through Space Florida's travel records myself and found it cost an extra $400 to upgrade its then senior VP of Business Development, Bernie McShay, from economy to business class on his flights for Paris Space Week in 2018. While Space Florida did not justify in its travel records why skipping coach was necessary for executives, a spokesperson told us issues of health and/or that such travels provides them the food and rest on the flight, enabling them to go directly to work upon landing, thus reducing hotel costs for recuperation.
As a recipient of state-appropriated funds, we need to be held to a high standard of operating and accountability with changes we will be implementing those changes based on these recommendations.
Now, we would love to talk to Frank DeBello about all this. We tried. But after weeks of Space Florida's spokesperson saying she was working to get an interview with him scheduled, it seems like the timeline keeps getting shifted here, so I just wanted to follow up. They backed out of the interview. Now, I want to point out, this is the only time Space Florida's travel and entertainment expenses has ever been audited in their 15 years of existence. The state audit manager who supervised that report wouldn't do an interview either, saying it was against policy. So I asked for that policy, and yeah, they literally have a written policy that says requests for on-camera or recorded interviews should be declined. Gotta love the Sunshine State. But the audit manager did answer over email when I asked why the state has never audited Space Florida until now. Her explanation? While the Auditor General is required to audit state agencies every 3 years, Space Florida technically isn't a state agency. So the Auditor General is authorized but not required to audit it. She pointed out that Space Florida does get financially audited every year by an independent CPA firm. But I read those audits, and they specifically say they don't audit Space Florida's travel, business meals, or incidentals. What's the risk when no one is watching how tax dollars are being spent?
Well, the risk is what we see here in this audit is that, people will, take advantage of taxpayer dollars and fund lavish meals, first-class travel, and just disregard the laws and the procedures that are set forth in the state statutes.
Space Florida told me it plans to update its travel and finance policies and procedures, but how? A spokesperson told me those concepts are pre-decisional, which is a business class way of saying they don't know yet. Thanks for watching What's Brewing. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I'll see you next time. I've got too much glue in my mouth. Let's go first cookie.
Yeah. This is good. I like this.
We need outtakes. Thanks for watching What's Brewing. I was like too eager on the cookie. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. That's it. That's the take.
That cider is getting to her.
It's just ginger ale. I swear.